fed into things like what was mentioned with the Grail Queens and the Grail Kings, which is the Magdalena, or the initiations of Magdalena, or Mag in this case being menstrual fluid, which also in this case means that menstrual fluid is magnetic. More importantly, what it's saying is that there's a macula, or literally a pubescent menstrual fluid that contains some type of initiatory energy called the fire star. And so if we're imagining this in an environment where women are in a sanctum, kind of like the Amazons, then you can kind of see how women would be brought through a process of an awareness of themselves through that first menstruation cycle, which still remotely takes place today with women in their with the mother and her daughter, where she has to now explain to her what this is all about. But if you can imagine on a much deeper level, it's a lot more deeper with when you're now finally able to bring life. Now, the corrupted side of this is that because this specific cult that we're referring to with OTO are fascinated with death and the energy of death, they celebrate the menstrual cycle as an actual barren time. So, according to the theism, that when the woman is in her cycle, in the period of her cycle, she's not capable of being impregnated, and the actual menstrual fluid itself is the aborted fetus or the egg, right? So in this case, they are worshiping that aspect of it and removing the sacred aspects of this transition point where the woman now goes into the level of being able to sustain and support life. So then, because if we look into these ancient texts, which I don't have in front of me, but I was reading the other day, and it was just a prayer to the ancient mother inside of Egypt, and they were just saying in a nutshell that this ability to bring life into a world is really, really difficult. It is a very, very, very high level of power. And they kind of recognized already that their power was not on the same level as that at all. So they always gave reverence to this ancient mother because she can bring beings through portals. And we've talked about this before, that we see these external structures in many ways as external portals. You know, if you build a pyramid and then you bring souls through it, it's almost like, well, a woman can bring a soul through. Why would you use a building versus a woman? So again, that would be schisms in the priesthood, to be honest. This is why you get a lot of, as it keeps continue to mention, and let's keep reading it, the monthly cycle of the priestess alludes to the mammal in conjunction with the red goat. The whole thing with goats, I think that at this point, because we've had so much of this symbolism of this demonic goat thing, we don't really see how it, for middle class, we can say the middle class ancients, the goat in itself was the way, it's like how you survived. See, managing cows in larger mammals is difficult. So even the lamb and the goat are virtually synonymous with each other. They're very similar. But you'll notice that it's weird because when you even see the difference between the Arab and the Israelis, it's like the difference between a lamb and a goat, even genetically. And, you know, maybe we'll save that story for later. But there definitely seems to be a part of history where the copulation or the energetic mixing with certain animals that are on the planet seem to actually create certain tribes. And we've talked about that before. It may seem, uncomfortable now, but we've gone into it deeper. So what this is mentioning is clearly this is like from that bloodline. It is this bloodline specifically that is practicing these rituals. So it goes on and says, a practitioner of the night then. So we know that Madame Blavatsky was talking about Bat-Kol, and we know that she was talking about basically a witch or a practitioner of the night, We know that these practitioners have an awareness of sex magic, and this sex magic also involves virgin priestesses, like we see on Conan, which is CNN. We see Conan, the Conan #1, where he's trying to get this priestess to this other area. Now that's the same thing that's playing out in Babylon AD with Vin Diesel. He's trying to get this priestess who's pure to another level, or to another area, right? So again, Conan #1, if you watch that again, or the one with James Earl Jones, that also lays out this same thing. Except for Conan and James Earl Jones in real life are really on the same side. So as it goes on, it says, then Bat Kol is the bride of Saturn, or Satan, dressed in black. She is presented as a sorceress and a prostitute to the Dark Lord. Her offerings are conducted inside the inner sanctum and the temple in alignment to the resurrection of the serum. Historically, the stained skin of the goat is hung in a Jewish tabernacle. Later, the temple sanctuary, right? So again, this rite, as we're seeing, is still being practiced within this culture, but it has lost all of its purity, and then now it is now brought up the energy, and this is why we see this in the world now, and that's the energy of more of the priestess or the goddess being used from a prostitution level versus as the creative component and power that is free. The following clip is exclusive content from the University. Access over 300 videos and 26 courses.